It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Thursday, April 1st, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we'll get some coronavirus updates. It is Thursday, so it's time for question and answer, and of course, Victory Rhymes by Youngse from South Africa. Alright guys, how are you guys doing today? It is Thursday, almost the ending of the week. Hope you really enjoyed the service last night. So let's get this day started together on the Morning Star Drive. Just want to remind everyone to keep liking and commenting, and I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Yes, it is another Thursday. We're heading to the end of the week. I'm just really happy that we are here. We had another good Lab 78 on Tuesday night. It's been going well on YouTube, slowly growing more and more. Super happy. We just hit over 2,000 subscribers, so super crazy happy about that too. But it was a really fun time talking about living in Malaysia, so really happy about that. Also, this Sunday we'll be meeting a member in Korea. And he is half Korean and half American. His father's American, wife is Korean, and his name is Daniel Baker. He is second gen. He's only 17 years old. Just had a really inspirational interview with him, guys. You want to hear something inspiring about our future and something really hopeful, go ahead and watch that Sunday edition. It's really amazing. I was really inspired by that too. So make sure to catch next week's Sunday edition. So what does that mean? It means it's time to get into today's featured artist of the day on this Thursday. You know what? There was someone who actually wrote me a couple things about what to write for Thursday, but now it was in my head, but I just forgot all of them. I'm gonna have to go back and look at what was it? They gave me like 4 different things to look at to call Thursday. I'm gonna have to go back to that. But it is Thursday, and who is the featured artist of the day? Today's featured artist is PGY from the Paper Music Associates in Korea, and that song is a bonus track from their latest single. It's called Soulless Glitter. After that, we have Renee live from Taiwan, covering a song from GEM, and that song is called Still That Girl. And last but not least, we have Francis Han over there in New York, and that song is called Astor Place. So I hope you guys enjoy, and just, especially this week, guys, in the name of the Lord, let's really pray for these member artists from around the world to do really well.
当年我13岁，写的这首歌，公主每天在睡，梦里当游客，梦里爱上谁，都一定匹配。梦里痛得不懂得恐惧，痛得不用面对，吹不过来的时间，做梦做的陶醉，但是我过的脸一再不可见。当那天真的我从梦里闯进现实，我曾经自由的脚步从此受到牵制。梦醒了吗？你的话像锋利的剑，能踏什么？这句话越听越可怜。小孩被逼长大，那受尽的瞳孔被逼放大。百年沉睡的歌王主，为了梦想到现实的束缚。他不愿背叛自己虚假的承诺，他不愿过着没有梦想的生活。他能否别忘了我？我是抬头望着天空，拿着想飞的风筝，但现实却只在我身后一直拉着我的伤。如果生活必须让我变成被困住的手，为何不能让我永远都被困在一个梦？梦醒了吧，你的话像锋利的剑，能那是的吧？这句话越听越可怜，啊，你忘了吧，还是绝望了吧？才让曾奋不顾身追的梦只剩一个和弦。百年沉睡的公主，为了梦想到现实的束缚。她不愿背叛自己虚假的承诺，她不愿过着没有梦想的生活。她能否别忘了我？我是抬头望着天空，拿着想飞的风筝，但现实却只在我身后一直拉着我的伤。如果生活必须让我变成被困住的手，为何不能让我永远都被困在一个梦？梦醒了吧，你的话像锋利的剑，能那是的吧？这句话越听越可怜，啊，你忘了吧，还是绝望了吧？才让曾奋不顾身追的梦只剩一个和弦。百年沉睡的公主，为了梦想到现实的束缚。她不愿背叛自己虚假的承诺，她不愿过着没有梦想的生活。她能否别忘了我？她能否别忘了我？
And that was Astor Place from Francis Han and his jazz band over there in New York. Second song, Renee Lai from Taiwan. That song is Still That Girl, cover by GEM. And last but not least, well, the feature artist of the day. That first song was PGY from the Paper Music Associates in Korea, and that song was Soulless Glitter. All right, guys, so let us get into what are we going to get into today. We're going to get into some news going on around the world. We'll start off with some coronavirus updates. And yes, we've gone up once again to 128.8 million cases in the world with 2.8 million deaths at a 2.19% mortality rate. And of course, when everything finishes, we are expecting that mortality rate to roughly be around like it's supposed to be like 0.03. 0.01 to 0.03, somewhere around that area. It's just that we haven't tested everyone in the world yet, but it should be roughly around that rate. Top 6 countries going by daily infection rates. We have the U.S. with 31 million cases, 564,000 deaths at 1.81%. Brazil, they went up in their mortality rate once again to 2.51%. We'll talk a little bit more about them during the current news. 12.6 million cases, 317,000 deaths. They are second in the world with cases and third in the world with deaths. India, 12.1 million cases, 162,000 deaths at 1.34%. They went down. And if you take a look at Brazil and India, the gap between them is growing further and further. It was at 300,000. Now it's up to 500,000. So we know Brazil is going through a really serious case. France, 4.5 million cases, 95,000 deaths at 2.08%. Turkey, 3.2 million cases, 31,000 deaths, and they dropped to 0.96%. And then Poland, 2.2 million cases, 52,000 deaths at 2.29%. Sweden, only country not to go into full lockdown, down to 1.69%. And Belgium also drops to 2.62%. All right, now let's take a look at the daily infection rates. We kind of go back to the regular order. It's Brazil on top with 86,000 cases in a day. Then the U.S. with 62,000. India with 53,000, and then it drops a lot to Turkey with 37,000, France with 30,000, and then Poland rounds up the top 6 with 20,000 cases in a day. And then over here in Southeast Asia, the Philippines, they've been on top for a while now, 9,200 cases in a day, while Indonesia comes next with half that number with 4,600, and then Malaysia with only 1,100 cases in a given day. So let's take a look at the top three news items for today. And we're going to go to Brazil. What is going on there? And there is a political crisis as the coronavirus surge rocks the president, Bolsonaro. So Brazil's President Bolsonaro is facing the biggest crisis of his presidency after the heads of the Army, Navy, and Air Force all quit, and the country recorded its highest daily coronavirus death toll. So the unprecedented resignation of the defense chiefs is being seen as a protest at attempts by President Bolsonaro to exert undue control over the military. So Bolsonaro's popularity has plummeted over his response to the coronavirus. Nearly 317,000 people have died, with a new daily record of 3,780 deaths just on Tuesday. So what's the situation right now? As well as the nationwide high record numbers of daily COVID deaths were also registered in 3 states. Sao Paulo, Brazil's most populous state, in the northeastern state of Paraíba, and in the capital of Brasilia. So worldwide, Brazil has the second highest number of total confirmed cases, with more than 12.6 million cases, and only the US has more. Now, fears have been voiced that the country could become a threat to global public health. So where are the new cases coming from? Brazil's leading health institute, Fiocruz, said last week that there had been a steep increase in cases among young adults. It said that intensive care units had reported a rising number of admissions of younger patients with the coronavirus, and a high number of deaths in this younger age group. So the country is in a situation where the health services have collapsed at the same time that we're seeing the pandemic making inroads among younger people. Those aged 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 to 59 are all growing. And it has said there have been 6-fold increase in cases among those aged 40 to 49 between the beginning of the year and mid-March. So how is the government's reaction? Brazil's far-right president, Bolsonaro, who came to power 2 years ago, has consistently opposed lockdown measures, arguing that the damage to the economy will be worse than the effects of the coronavirus itself. He also told Brazilians to stop whining about the situation. But last week, Mr. Bolsonaro, who has previously raised doubts about vaccines and defended unproven drugs as treatment, said that he would make 2021 the year of vaccinations, and he said very soon we'll resume our normal lives. Now, the president's popularity has plummeted over his handling of the pandemic, with 43% of Brazilians saying Mr. Bolsonaro is to blame for the coronavirus crisis, according to polls published in mid-March. And the poll suggests that 54% rate his performance in connection with the pandemic as bad or very bad, up from 48% in late January. So how serious is this for President Bolsonaro? The record death figures come amid a political crisis which has seen the foreign minister, the defense minister, and the heads of the Army, Navy, and Air Force all leave office within days of each other, and is reportedly the first time in Brazilian history that the chiefs of the Army, Navy, and Air Force have stood down together over a disagreement with the president. It's a defense minister and all like the Army, Navy, and Army, Navy, and Air Force. They accuse the president of poorly handling relations with not just with them and the president, but also with China, India, and the U.S. And lawmakers said resulted in Brazil having insufficient quantities of the coronavirus vaccine. So there's a huge clash right now with the president over the issue of the armed forces loyalty, which he said should be directed to upholding the Constitution rather than supporting the president personally. So the BBC's Latin America correspondent says Mr. Bolsonaro is now facing his biggest political crisis since taking office in 2019. Right, so that's what's going on over there in Brazil. It's not just the coronavirus, but there is political turmoil going on there too. Many people stepping down at the same time. Second thing we're going to take a look at is what's happening over there in Australia with the coronavirus. And Australia has fallen 85% short of vaccine delivery goal. So Australia has fallen 3.4 million doses short of its target of delivering 4 million coronavirus vaccinations by the 31st of March, prompting criticism of the government. The 85% shortfall comes 2 days after Brisbane entered another snap lockdown to combat a small outbreak. Last week, the government said the vaccine rollout did not demand urgency given Australia's low infection rates, and the country has recorded 909 deaths and 29,300 cases since the pandemic began, which is far fewer than many other nations. But sporadic outbreaks have led to 6 lockdowns in cities in recent months, and critics say situations like Brisbane's outbreak show why a quick vaccine program is still needed. Now, Brisbane's 2 clusters have been linked to a nurse and a doctor who contracted the virus from a COVID ward at the same hospital, and it's unclear why those health workers had not yet been vaccinated, officials said. So critics have accused the government of mishandling the rollout, which began on February 22nd, later than in many other countries. Australia is administering the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccine and has a rate of 2.3 vaccines per 100 people that is expected to increase in coming months as vaccine access is opened up to the wider population. And on Wednesday, Health Minister Greg Hunt said that a record 72,800 vaccinations had been given in the past day, taking the total to 670,000. And that's showing that the national vaccination program is accelerating exactly as intended in the manner that was intended. But in January, the PM, Scott Morrison, promised to have 4 million people inoculated with their first shot by March. And earlier this month, the government pushed the target back to April and said 6 million people would be vaccinated by mid-May. And it has also dialed back a promise to have every Australian fully vaccinated by October, now saying that everyone will have received the first shot by then. So the slowed rollout, why is it happening like this? Australia is currently up to stage 2 of its 4-phase rollout for 25 million people, and doses are being offered to people over 70, those in aged care homes, frontline health workers, emergency service workers, Aboriginal and these Torres Strait Islanders, and people over 55 and people with underlying health conditions are all being taken care of first. Authorities have not yet specified why the pace has been so slow, but issues such as booking technicalities have been reported. There are also reports that some people are choosing not to get the vaccine. So natural disasters, like we've heard about the massive floods in Eastern Australia last week, have also disrupted the rollout. And earlier this month, also the EU blocked a shipment of AstraZeneca doses to Australia, arguing there was a greater need for them in Europe. And Australia said the one shipment of 250,000 doses would not greatly affect its own program as it built up its own manufacturing capabilities. However, Australia has asked the EU to review the ban on its order, which Mr. Morrison said had been paid for, and Labour opposition leader Anthony Albanese said the government, by its own admission, could not blame international supply issues, right? So this is what is going on over there in Australia. They are 85% down with their shots. But, just like America and other places, it takes, the logistics is very difficult, and it's going to be slow in the beginning, but it will pick up very fast, just like the U.S. was slow in the beginning, but now they're crazy blazing fast, right? Last but not least, there are 14 countries, last news today, 14 countries raised concerns over the WHO report on the COVID origin. So this group of 14 countries, including the US, Japan, and the UK, say the study was delayed and scientists lacked full access to data as the WHO chief calls for a deeper probe into lab leak theory. So a group of 14 countries has raised concerns over a new report by the WHO into the origin of the coronavirus, citing delays and a lack of full access to data, while the agency's own chief called for further investigation into a theory the outbreak was a result of a lab leak. Now, the widely anticipated study on Tuesday was based on an investigation by the agency's fact-finding mission to the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the novel virus was first detected. And after a 4-week visit, the WHO team, composed of 17 international experts, concluded in the report it was extremely unlikely that the coronavirus sprang from a lab leak, a position that was first advanced by the U.S. last year. Now, China has strongly rejected such allegations. Instead, the scientists said it was very likely that the virus was introduced among humans through an intermediate host, and that it was possible to likely that the virus was transmitted to humans from animals. So later on Tuesday, the 14 countries included the US, Australia, Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, and Israel said in a statement that they fully supported the WHO's effort to bring an end to the pandemic, including understanding how it started and spread. But they added it was essential that we voice our shared concerns that the international expert study on the source of the coronavirus was significantly delayed and lacked access to complete original data and samples. So Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway, Korea, Slovenia, UK also co-signed the statement. Separately on Tuesday, the WHO's director, Tedros Ghebreyesus, also demanded further research to reach more robust conclusions. And he also said that he doesn't believe that this assessment was extensive enough, right? Although the team has concluded that a laboratory leak is the least likely hypothesis, this requires further investigation, potentially with additional missions involving specialist experts, which they are ready to deploy. So Chinese Foreign Ministry hit back at the perceived criticism from the WHO chief, saying that Beijing had fully demonstrated its openness, transparency, and responsible attitude, and to politicize this issue will only severely hinder global cooperation in study of origins, jeopardize anti-pandemic cooperation, and cost more lives, the ministry said in a statement. Meanwhile, a senior Chinese health official said there was no factual basis to accusations against China, and there was someone else who was a co-leader of the joint study into the origins of coronavirus by China and the WHO, published on Tuesday, told reporters that the Chinese and international research had access to the same data. And he also said the Chinese part of the joint research had now been completed and the world now needed to look further into potential early cases of the coronavirus outside China in the next phase of its research into the origins of the pandemic. So the EU called the report a helpful first step and highlighted the need for further work, urging relevant authorities to help, but without naming China. So discussing its findings, the head of the research team that traveled to China said the report is not a static product, but a dynamic one, adding that there will be new analysis. So they said it's not impossible that there was a lab leak, right? Because it's happened in the past, but they have not been able to hear or see or look at anything that would warrant a different conclusion, right? So the inability of the WHO mission to conclude yet where or how the virus began spreading in people means that tensions will continue over how the pandemic started. Okay, so that is quite interesting to see what that outcome of that would be, and I think we really need to pray to see the full outcome of what actually happened and the origin of the coronavirus is something that I think many people are looking forward to figuring out. Okay, so that is the news for today. Hope that we can even pray and look at and see more things of what God is doing, which means it leads us to a time a lot actually, guys. This is going to be a lot more spiritual. We're going to get into some praise and worship and something that we can do together here on the Morning Star Drive as one body. We're going to start with the starting point of the will. Funny, we picked that song because we just talked about the starting point of the coronavirus, right? And then we'll go into everything God has given, and then the last we'll break it down to all we have been through from the past to the present. So guys, let's spend this time giving glory to the Holy Trinity.
God began history from a small starting point on earth. From just one point, Providence, history started to grow. And just one man on the earth, he was a starting point God chose. History for the earth was made through the body of the Son. Fiery power from the Spirit inspired and made this history. All the land
Trinity poured out grace and love. Everywhere the Holy Son was by our side, He protected us with endless love. Day and night, the Holy Spirit inspired us for her love and endless grace. We will thank and love her every day. Even through harsh tribulations, blessings came through the Trinity's deep love. Everywhere that we set our feet, they were loving us and keeping us safe. Just like the Lord, we will love them with all we have, giving our whole body and heart, without changing, now forever. We will love the Trinity always. Without changing, now forever, we will love the Trinity always.
And that was All We've Been Through from the Past to the Present. Great song. Before that, Everything God Is Given and the starting point of the will. So that brings us to the time of question and answer for all of us here. Okay, so it is Thursday, so I did take a couple questions. One is all the way over there from the Patreon. And another one is because a lot of students in seminary have been asking, they have this homework for the timeline of all the central figures and comparing it to the New Testament timeline. And it was something that was talked about during the Wednesday service too, when Sunstein was like going over the two things. And we'll go over two questions. So the first question over there in Patreon is about how do we know that that the Lord's second coming comes 400 years after Martin Luther. And the next question was, did Martin Luther actually say this? Okay, so two things I can talk about. Number one is Martin Luther didn't talk about 400 years after him, the Messiah would come. So that wasn't actually said by Luther. Second thing is, how do we know that he comes 400 years after Luther? And we're going to use the principle of reoccurring history to understand this. Right, so if you look at the Wednesday message, there was, basically the comparison of the time from Abraham all the way to Jesus, and then from Jesus all the way to all the way to Sunstein, right? So, and you use the principle of recurring history, which is Ecclesiastes 1:9, Ecclesiastes 3:15, that basically says the past, present, future are all the same, right? God doesn't change. So, if we were to compare the two, we see that the 6,000-year history can be broken into three parts of 2,000 years, right? And how do we know that Sunstein comes 400 years after Martin Luther? Well, we look at the past history. Now, this is one of the reasons why we know that when the Lord's second coming comes, he will reveal these things to us that we never saw in the past. And that's why no one else will ever talk about this, but the Lord's second coming, Sunstein comes and teaches about this. And we're like, oh, this is why now we know why it's 400 years after, right? So let's break up the 6,000 years, which means 2,000 years of the New Testament, and then the 4,000 years will break in half into 2,000, and see the pattern that we see. Okay, so there is a great verse also. I believe it's in like Romans chapter 5, verse 14, that says that Jesus was in the pattern of the one to come, right? But so there is a pattern. So let's take a look at the first 2,000 years, which is Adam commits the fall, then there's 1,600 years of silence until Noah. And then Noah's son makes a huge mistake, and then there's 400 years of silence until Abraham. So the first 2,000 years of the Old Testament was Adam to Noah, 1,600 years, and then Noah to Abraham, which was 400 years. There's 2,000 years. It's 1,600 and 400. And then when you take the next 2,000 years of the Old Testament time, started from Abraham. So Abraham had his son Isaac and Jacob, and then Joseph, and then 400 years of slavery, and then Moses comes along. After Moses is Joshua. They go into the land and go into Canaan, fight the 31 tribes. Time of Judges comes, right? And then after the time of Judges, you have the time of Kings, and after the Kings, there's split of Israel, and then you have all these prophets and kings going together at that time. And the last prophet of the Old Testament is Malachi. And Malachi came 400 years before Jesus, which is quite cool because just as Noah came 400 years before Abraham, Malachi comes 400 years before Jesus, which means it's the same pattern. 1600, 400, right? 1600 from Adam to Noah. In the same way, it is 1600 from Abraham to Malachi, which means that there's going to be 400. So it's 1600, 400, 1600, 400. Then in the New Testament time, you have the time from Jesus all the way to Luther, who is the last prophet, and he died in 1546. And then 400 years later, in 1945, is when Sunday comes. So it's exactly the same pattern. So this is not something spoken about in the Bible. It is not something spoken about even by Martin Luther, but we can see the pattern that God is working with. It's 1600, 400, 1600, 400, 1600, 400. And that's why we know that the Messiah comes 400 years after Luther, right? So it actually happened. So this is how we know. And it's not going to be something spoken in the Bible by anyone else until the Lord comes and he'll reveal everything hidden, right? So that would be like 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 5. So don't judge anything until the appointed time. When the Lord's second coming comes, he will reveal all the things that were hidden in darkness, right? So that's why we're able to learn this. Now, the second question is kind of cool. It has to do with the same thing is during seminary, there was a chart that was given out. And in the chart, what happens is 400 years before, there's Jesus, and 400 years before Jesus was Malachi, and then before Malachi, there was like 210 years, and that was the time of the Babylonian captivity, and then also the time of rebuilding Israel, and then Malachi came at the end of the 210 years. Now, in the chart that was given to them, there was, it shows the time of Jesus, and 400 years before was actually, it says Calvin. And then 210 years, and then it says that Luther came at the beginning of the 210 years. Now, the question is, well, was it from the time of Calvin or is it time from Luther? And the answer is, it came out in the Wednesday message. It's from the time of Luther, right? So the reason why we know this, we'll take a look at the historical accounts. So in the Old Testament time, right, there was the Babylonian captivity. And that was the 67 years of the Babylonian captivity, and we rounded up to 70, right? So 67 years of the Babylonian captivity until Persia takes over Babylon, right? And then after that, there is 140 years of the Persians allowed Israelites to go back, right? They went back to Israel and to Jerusalem to rebuild the temples and rebuild and fortify the walls, right? And after that 140 years, so 140 years plus 70 is 210, then Malachi comes, and then there's a preparation time for the Messiah. Now, at the time of, in the New Testament time, the Babylonian captivity is not literally a captivity of like the nation of Israel or back in the, but that's what you call the Avignon papacy, okay? So what happens is, the papacy, or what you call the Pope, right? The Pope and the power of the papacy, right, of these religious leaders was always in Rome, right? Rome is where the Pope always resided. But for some reason, in 1309, the papacy moved to Avignon in France, and that was in 1309, right? So there was this crazy French king. I believe his name is King Philip. And he's the first person that actually tortured a pope. Never happened before. And then the pope died, and this powerful French king decided to get the pope elected in his area, in Avignon. So they elected a pope, and for the next another 67 years, so from 1309 to 1376, 1377, around there, so 67, 68 years, there was the Pope resided in Avignon in France and not in Rome. But in 1376, what happens is, 1377, then the Pope at that time decides to go visit Rome. And then as he visits Rome, he dies there. So they say the reign of the Avignon papacy ended in 1377, right? And the end of 1377, which means from there, there's going to be another 140 years. So 140 years added on to 1377 would be 1517. And why 1517 is significant? Because 1517 is the year that Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses, or he went against the church to begin the Protestant movement or Protestant Reformation. And then, of course, with Martin Luther dies in 1546, and then 400 years later, Sun Tzu is born. Now, the reason why Martin Luther can't be at the beginning of the 210 years, because he was born in the 1480s. And the beginning of the 210 years is 1309, so he couldn't actually come at the beginning of the 210 years because he wasn't born yet. So I believe that chart is not wrong. I think we're just they're trying to put Martin Luther and Calvin together. That's what my thinking is. But it cannot be from Calvin, because Calvin died in like 1563. Or no, 1564? I forget what it is. In the 1560s that he died. 1563, I think. And 400 years after him, there's nothing special that has to do with Sun Tzu, right? So it might just be that because they're olive trees, that Luther and Calvin were together, and they might have just put them together at the end of the 210 years. But it looks like it's that Luther is the beginning of the 210, and then Calvin is at the end of the 210. But no, it's both of them are at the very, very end. They're both relatively living around the exact same time. Like I said before, Martin Luther dies 1546, and then 21 years later. No, not 21 years later, 1546. And about 20 years later, less than 21 years later, that is when John Calvin dies, right? So that is to answer that question, just to make sure that there is no confusion with that part there. So Luther did not come at the beginning of the 210 years, okay? So that is the answer for today's question answer for today. 2 questions that I got. Great questions, by the way, and I hope that you guys got good answers from it, which means it's time for the song of choice for today. And today's song of choice comes from someone named Avicii, and the song is called Heaven, and that's why I like this song. But those of you guys don't know who Avicii is, from 16 years old, right? This guy's name is Tim Bergling, I believe. He began posting his remixes on electronic music forums, and which led to his first record deal, and he rose to prominence in 2011 with his single Levels. And the reason why this guy is so popular, because he's the one that kind of inspired an entire generation of people to make their own music without going to a record label, right? So this is Avicii, and this song is called Heaven. So I hope you guys enjoy this dance song.
Just been born. Yeah, you come to raise me up when I'm beaten and broken up. And now I'm back in the arms of love. And I think I just died. I think I just died. Yeah, I think I just died. I think it just died. I went to heaven. Raise me up. and went to heaven. Went to heaven. And went to heaven.
That was Avicii with Heaven. I hope you guys really enjoyed that dance song. Got your finger snapping and your toes tapping, whatever it is. Avicii with Heaven. All right, guys, it is Thursday. What does that mean for our last segment for today? Of course, we're going to go into Victory Rhymes with Youngse from South Africa, currently in Korea. Hope you guys enjoyed this time of heavenly and resurrected poetry.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Victory Rhymes. Here with your girl Youngse. I'm Youngse. I'm from South Africa, but currently living in Korea. And I love poetry, and I'm gonna drop them poetry vibes on you today. I am in this section. I share the poems from the brides of this history from all over the world with you. And if you're someone who likes poetry, whether you write or you just like to read, doesn't matter, please send me the poems that you like through the email in the description box below. I would really love to hear and to feature the things that you like, the poems. It can even be songs or raps that you like. I want to hear about it. That would be great. And today is a special episode of Victory Rhymes, or kind of a different one, because today I'm gonna share not a poem as in the normal vibe of a poem, but a song. And isn't it true, guys? Isn't a song also a poem, right? It's a written work of art. And the song that I'm gonna share today is a song that I wrote and composed I think about 2 years ago, and it's called Love Talks. And it is a song that I made it kind of on the spot, like I do with all my songs, or most of them. It's mostly kind of a improvising situation going on, like hey, I feel the sudden urge and inspiration to take a poem and turn it into a song. Let's do it all right away. There's just no time to wait, man. I'm so inspired, so on fire. Let's just sing it right now. and record at the same time. Yeah, that's usually me. I'm not gonna call that wisdom, but that is how I roll. It's fun for me. I do it for fun. I like to make songs to give glory to the Trinity, and also because I truly enjoy doing it and making something, expressing my sincere gratitude towards the Trinity through arts. Yeah, and this song is one of those moments, and it gives my testimony of witnessing the Lord who embodies the Trinity's love. And it goes like this.
People say love is an abstract thing, but I saw love walk. I heard love sing, I heard love talk. Love wrote me a letter, love wrote a song. Love told me to do even better. Love told me, let's fix all that's wrong. Love said, let's do it together. People say love is an abstract thing, but I saw how love took action. I felt love's handshake, I looked into love's eyes. Love has a face, love has feet. Love walked the path of suffering for lovers to be free. Love has a voice, and love whispers in lovers' ears. Love leads, forgives, endures, perfects, resurrects. Love leads, forgives, endures, perfects, resurrects. Love raptures. Love does it all for love. Love overflows. Love more than the stars. But without the one to love, love goes to waste. Oh, oh, oh. People say love is an abstract thing, but I saw love walk. I heard love sing, I heard love talk. Love wrote me a letter, love wrote a song. Love told me to do even better. Love said, let's fix all that's wrong. Let's do it together. Take my hand, I am here. Never leave my side. Call me my love, my love. Call my name. I am love, and I am here. I am always near.
So that was it. That was the song Love Talks that I wrote about how the Lord embodies love. Yeah. Gives that warm feeling when you think about it, right? And this week it's about praying in the name of the Lord. Whatever you ask in my name, I will do. And the Lord is love. He really is love, embodies the Trinity's love for sure. And we pray in His name. His name is the name of love. And we pray in the name of love. I'm sorry, I just had to. I had to. But yes, let's not forget the Sunday message and let's pray in the Lord's name. I hear you say Amen. Hallelujah, Amen. And this brings us to the end of today's, I almost said sermon, but our episode, our Victory Rhymes episode. And I'll be back again next week with another episode of Victory Rhymes and another episode full of poetry vibes, y'all. Yeah, this is the place to be, place of poetry. And I am Yongse. Goodbye.
And that was Youngse from South Africa with Victory Rhymes. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. Man, that was some cool sound effects on that voice she had at the end over there. Awesome. Thank you so much, Youngse, for all your efforts. That was episode 21. Thank you so much. Going in 21 weeks. Very, very amazing, and I hope you continue to make a lot more of these resurrected poetry segments. All right, guys, what does that mean? It means it's time for us to reach the end of today's segment. Hope you guys really enjoyed today's podcast, which means that, yes, once Thursday's over, we're going to the end of the week, right? So everyone have an awesome, awesome April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. I should have done some type of joke, but I didn't. All right, guys? Everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop